Okay, today I'm going to be talking about being a blog husband. Now, what does that mean? A blog husband is kind of like an Instagram husband. So basically, my wife, who is fantastic, by the way, she started a blog called prettylittledetails.ca or .com. And there she can do basically everything on that website, and she is a freaking rock star when it comes to this stuff. So she puts together her blog, which is Pretty Little Details. She does all the writing. She learned how to do code and put this website together, and she's absolutely fantastic at everything. She's got an eye like you would never believe. She's awesome all around. The only problem was that she didn't want to hire a photographer, and so I kind of picked up the task. What's cool about this is that both together, this kind of relationship, how we've kind of grown together. She's grown her skills and I've grown my skills, and together it's this amazing journey. So what is a blog husband? Basically, at the end of the day, all I'm there to do is to find locations, learn the camera settings, and to take pictures. And that's really what I want to talk about today. Now, if you're watching today, it's either you're a blogger or you're new at it, or you're wanting to get into it. Maybe you want your boyfriend or husband to get into it. Maybe they're watching it now. But whichever way, this is just kind of a total beginner in terms of what I do. My whole philosophy behind it is that, like, I love my wife, and so anything that really makes her happy and really makes her dreams come true and makes everything happen for her, it just makes me feel so good, and I absolutely love this. So if you don't have the passion or the drive to do it, most likely, I mean, it's just going to be a little bit harder to get into. But today, I want to give you just kind of a snippet or a sneak peek at what I do. Today I'm going to be talking about 3 things, or maybe 4 things, we'll see. But one is lighting and locations. I did a tutorial not that long ago. You could just check out the link in the description below, or you can check out my YouTube channel. I did one on strictly lighting. So that's talking about shooting at sunset, all natural light, by the way, shooting at sunset on a cloudy day, and as well as, what was the third one? Overhead shade. Those are the 3 ingredients, but check out that tutorial down there, as well as locations. We live in Manitoba, and so it's like the flattest place on earth. So we don't have any mountains. The highest mountains are speed bumps here in Manitoba. So we don't have the luxury of some really beautiful locations that you would get elsewhere. So we have to be creative with what we have. Honestly, you have to just keep looking for locations as you drive around the city. When we go to a friend's house or weddings or whatever, wherever we're going at work, I'm constantly looking for locations. You really have to get to know the location that's near you. Make sure that you have a good diversity in terms of some urban places. You don't want everything to be in a forest or in a desert, or you want to kind of change it up. So learn your location, so to speak. Number 2, what I want to talk about is our camera settings. Now, I must preface, I say this every single time, is that we're shooting on the T3i, which is totally entry level. But I must say, if you haven't gotten a camera yet, a T3i is great. I mean, it's a great start. If you look at our website, you never think that we actually use the T3i because it's so kind of entry level, but we were able to maximize with the equipment that we have. If you're waiting for, like, some people they have the biggest excuse of, I would totally start a blog if I had this equipment or this writing skills or whatever. That's never the way to start. You're just asking for an excuse to quit. And so at the end of the day, you use the equipment that you have. I mean, if you only have an iPhone, use an iPhone. I mean, seriously. But it's the T3i. What I'll be explaining today in terms of my camera settings is the T3i, because that's what I know. That's where I started. If you can jump straight into something with like a 5D, or maybe you can jump into whatever, I mean, a Sony A7S or a GH4 or something like that, a higher end camera, by all means, go do it. But today I just want to talk to you a little bit about the settings that I use and the way that I shoot. A couple things that I just want to note is whenever you're picking up a DSLR or something like that, here's kind of how I got started. First of all, I knew nothing about photography, so I picked up like photography magazines. I've talked about Creative Live, I've talked about Flickr.com, I've talked about all these great resources that you can go and get. But at the end of the day, when I first started out and first started getting into photography, one of the things that I highly suggest doing, especially if you do any kind of mistakes, maybe your exposure's too low or too high, make sure you're shooting on RAW. If you have the ability to shoot on RAW, because at that point you can bring some levels down. You can really fine tune your image. They're really big pictures, but it's totally worth it. I mean, don't shoot straight into JPEG. RAW is so much better. Tip number 2 is, if you can, learn to shoot on manual mode. I used to shoot on AV the first few shots until I started shooting into the sun. Okay, it totally sucks. It'll take you longer to learn, but here I'll even show you the settings that I started with. So when I didn't even know how to use this camera or where to start, I'd always had a starting point. So it made it super easy for me to kind of get into it. I used to set my setting at 800 ISO, and I used to shoot at the lowest I can go, which is, in this example, it's a 2.8, as well as I go 1 to 800. The 800 and the 800 made it so easy for me to remember a starting point. Now, at the end of the day, I really don't want to be shooting at 800 ISO. If I can bring that sucker down to 400, 200, 100, fantastic. In fact, if I could shoot on 100 all the time, I would totally do it. But in this case, it was just a starting point. If you do this in broad daylight, it's going to be super bright. Your image is going to be so white. But the first thing I do is I take a picture and I see what happens. Most likely, if it's extremely bright, fantastic. I can bring that ISO down immediately. So if I can shoot at a 400 or 200, fantastic. Okay. Later on in the day, near the nighttime, you can't necessarily go to a 400 or a 200. You have to shoot high. And then what I do is I bring the shutter speed and I adjust with that shutter speed. 1 to 800 is good. I don't shoot anything below 1 to 250. You're risking getting blurry pictures because of, unless you have a really wicked steady hand or you're shooting on a tripod, fantastic. But I really try and stay around that 800 if I can. Okay, so that's where I start. If you have nowhere to start, then start there. Last time in the lighting tutorial, I talked about the Canon 50mm 1.8, I believe. Yeah, the 50mm 1.8 was a great lens to start with. I almost all the time shot at a 1.8 strictly because you get that depth of field that you can't get out of any other entry-level camera. So I always shot there, but you risk getting really blurry pictures if you're not in that focal distance, that right focal distance. So make sure that you're you shoot fairly low, because more light will be coming in and you'll have some more dynamic images. Okay, number 3, angles and poses. Okay, this is very interesting because when it comes to poses, Jen was really natural at getting the right poses very quickly. Well, I say that now because in hindsight it seemed like it was so easy, but it wasn't necessarily super easy. We watched Sue Bryce on Creative Live and different things on posing. It actually took us a little while because she had to learn her body, and as we took pictures, the more pictures we took, she found the angles that best suited, like if you're looking for the right curves or the right something that makes you look a certain way or kind of blocks your shoulder or whatever. In terms of poses, you really have to, it's just trial and error, trial by fire. When it comes to angles though, depending on the occasion, usually I like to shoot low. it just makes your legs look slimmer and taller. It just makes you look taller, and it's a much more flattering image. If you look at a lot of fashion photography on the street or anything like that, sometimes they shoot low just to create that extra tallness. So be creative. Just try different things. Try shooting low. Try shooting on the ground. Try shooting standing up, eye level. Just keep rotating it. At the end of the day, especially for your first few time shooting, you really want to try a little bit of everything. Absolutely everything. You just try everything. Overshoot. Shoot like crazy. Some photographers, I mean, if you have cameras that can do it, like a 5D, if you have a camera to do it, and you want to shoot that repeated that rapid fire shot, be my guest. I actually don't shoot that quick. I wait for moments. So when I'm shooting Jenn, I click fairly rapidly, but I know what I'm looking for. After a certain amount of time, I'm not rapid fire blind shot. Okay, I wait for that moment, and I wait for those connections. Whenever I feel like I'm connected to her through the image, that connection point, that's when I take the shot. Sometimes I miss it, and sometimes it's funny because Jenn likes certain images and I like certain images, and I like certain poses. I like tight shots. Like if you look at at my lighting tutorial, there's a lot of tight shots because I love tight shots. I love seeing Jenn in that tight shot, where she likes a lot of variety / wider shots and bigger shots, or 3/4 and stuff like that. So there's sometimes where she likes the face that she does as a pose, and I won't take the shot because I'm waiting for her to, and she'll say click because she wants me to take that picture when I'm just like looking for different moments than she would. So learn to like each other's, or learn what each other likes. So I like certain styles, she likes certain styles, but when we blend them together, she really end up picking the best. And sometimes she'll be like, I never thought about that, but it'll totally fit. And sometimes I like to just take shots that I don't even think they'll work. I just take them anyway, and it turns out to be absolutely fantastic, especially candid shots when she's getting ready or laughing, or I made her laugh, or something happens. I take the shot anyway, because you never know when something could be just absolutely fantastic and cute. So at the end of the day, like, this is meant to be super, super fun. Now, we've totally had our bad days where we're out and about, or we're trying to make a family gathering, and she's all dressed up. We're going to a party or whatever it is, and she's like, we need to take pictures because I'm ready. And I'm going, oh my goodness, Jenn, I really don't want to take pictures right now. But at the end of the day, like, this makes Jenn happy, and she's so passionate about it, and she's such an entrepreneur, and I love her so much that it totally makes it worth it. When you see great relationships flourish and just have so much fun, it totally makes it. It just absolutely makes it. I just want to say, for those who are watching, thanks. It's super awesome. I'm hoping to get Jenn into some of these behind the scenes, because she puts so much hard work, and sometimes she's shy behind the camera. And so I hope to see a little bit more of what will happen with Pretty Little Details, and hopefully I can bring a little bit more content to you guys as the viewers. Anyway, see you next time.